running around, kicking, throwing, jumping.
He's going to be a stellar
swimming.
athlete.
Yeah, hopefully. He's big. He's tall for his age. He's like in the 100th percentile for his height and weight and stuff. So
he's going to be. How tall is your husband?
My husband's 6'6".
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm 5'4".
Oh my God. It doesn't matter. He's gonna be an athlete.
Yeah.
Get his dad's genes and
Hopefully.
too competitive. Yeah. So
Hopefully.
so now so what do you do here in Charlotte?
So like I said, I taught here for a couple years, and when I had my son, it allowed me to step out of the classroom and pursue something I've always wanted to do, and that was have my own business. And for many years, I didn't know what that business would be.
A lot of people go through that.
I always felt like, especially when I was driving to work, when I had bad days, or when I was just questioning things, I'd say to myself, there's got to be something more. There's got to be something more to this than what I'm doing, because it just doesn't feel right. I mean, I love what I'm doing. I love teaching. I loved, the things I was involved with, but I just felt like my heart had more to say or more to do.
Right.
And I lost my dad about 8 years ago, and he had Lou Gehrig's disease. He had ALS, and as he was dying, his last probably 2 or 3 months of his life, he kept assuring me that everything would be okay. And though he was struggling and dying, at the maximum, he couldn't be going through anything worse. He kept telling me everything would be okay. And for some reason, I've always believed him, and I've believed that he was trying to tell me something, and that meant something, and that I was supposed to do something more with my life. And so once I was able to step out of the classroom and stay home with my son, I thought, okay, great, I'm going to live this stay-at-home mom kind of life. I'm going to go to yoga and do all these Starbucks, and just hang out with my friends. And motherhood was just crazy for me.
Right.
It was a huge transition, a huge change, because I loved being around people at work. I loved always thinking about things, and so that really kind of gave me inspiration to say what I want to do next. And so I was staying at home already. My son was taking a few naps a day, and I found myself with time. And so I said, what can I do with this time? And so I started blogging, and a few friends and I, we started blogging, and we started telling our stories about motherhood and what it was really like, and not the beautiful glorified Facebook version of what you see about motherhood.
Like what?
Like it's challenging, and we're sleep deprived. Not that you want to hear about this, but breastfeeding is awful. Sometimes it's not beautiful. It's not always fun. Sometimes you look at your newborn and you don't see this beautiful creature. You see this scary creature.
Right.
And it's not a postpartum depression thing. It's just kind of a real thing. And the things that we were going through, and we were scared, and we felt alone, and we didn't know what to do with those feelings. So until we got together and started sharing, what we were truly feeling, we felt better. So we said,
Wow.
We can't be the only ones who are feeling like this. So we would write, basically have our conversations over the internet. So basically like you and I are doing right now through this podcast, and people are eavesdropping in on what we're saying.
Right.
People could read the things that we were talking to each other about. So it allowed outsiders to say, oh my gosh, they're feeling that way too. Thank God, because I'm feeling like that and I felt so alone.
Right.
So as we started sharing our stories, people would send me emails and say, thank you for doing that, because not only did you help me feel better, but you let me know there's somebody else who feels like that too. Or I know somebody else who's been, going through motherhood, and I'm going to share this with her just in case she feels this way and she doesn't know who to talk to about it. So it wasn't always serious. Sometimes it would be about crazy things like poop and puke and
right,
stuff.
Right. Things that just happen.
Newborns and
stuff.
I
think that's awesome. So because motherhood can't. I was reading a book one time, and it was talking about love. It was a book about love, and it was talking about feelings, and it was saying your feelings sometimes at 3 a.m. when your baby's waking up, and it's the fourth time at night, and you have to work. Your feelings are not going to be happy. You're not going to love this baby. It was talking about how if you associate love with feeling, it was you're not going to love. Your feelings you're going to be upset. You're going to be frustrated. But you're going to do it, so love is an action.
Right. I had a friend who struggled a lot in the first probably 6 months of her baby's life, and she said, thank God I love this baby because I didn't like her for about 6 months.
Oh, my, that is so awesome.
And I think it takes a lot of courage to be able to say something like that, but how many people could relate to something like that? I mean, that first 6
everyone.
months is so hard.
Everyone.
And I think that that can be applied to anything, you know, your job. Like, thank God I love what I do because it was so hard for me to get used to it. Or,
Wow.
you know, when you move to a new city, like I thought I loved it and I moved here, but I don't know anyone. It's so hard, but I'm glad I stuck it out, and here's why. And
Right.
so
you're taking the elephant out of the world.
Right.
The big elephant.
Right, exactly.
You're
And
just
that's a
one
perfect
by
way
one.
to put it. Yeah.
Like one by one, you're taking them out.
Exactly. So through motherhood, you know, we were sharing these stories, and it kind of got to be too much for us. It was kind of turning into something we never thought it would. We were getting a lot of attention, and we just didn't have a lot of extra time. So as a group of moms, we said, you know what, this was a great time. We're going to have to call it quits. And so at that point, I kind of realized that I definitely saw something with this, and that this whole idea of sharing what it's really like didn't have to just apply to motherhood. So I sat down and thought about how I could build something like this, build a platform like this for a lot of other people to use. So I talked to a company called Niche in Erie, Pennsylvania, and we did some personal branding, and I just sort of learned what was important to me. And so I, in my head, took...
Can I ask what personal branding is?
Personal branding is finding out who you are and who you want to be, and making sure that that's being reflected in the things that you're doing. And so what happens with people is a lot of times they think their image is one thing, and then other people perceive their image as something else. So then they're kind of misunderstood. So you want to make sure that your brand, everything about what you're doing, because everyone is a brand. Everyone is their own brand, their own.
I believe that 100%.
And so what you wear, what you do, the things you say, all of that represents your brand. So if you're all over the place, then people are misunderstanding you. And so what I ended up finding was that personal branding was awesome, because I was like, yes, this is what I love, this is what I don't like, this is what I stand for, this is what I value, this is what I bring to the table. And I was like, I want everyone to be able to know that feeling.
Right.
So what I did was I created a platform. It's called WIRL Project, and it stands for WIRL.
How do you spell it?
WIRL stands for What It's Really Like. So it's spelled WIRL. WIRL Project, and you can find it at WIRLProject.com.
That is so awesome. What it's really like.
Yeah, so what we do
Oh my gosh.
is we tell stories about life and what it's really like. There's confessions, there's stories, there's humor, and there's just the real, authentic version of you and what you've been through and who you are and what you want people to know. So it's kind of like you explained, and it's an extension of your personal brand and what you want people to know about you. Because through Twitter and Facebook, you know, it's a shortened version. So you can give your little blurb here and there. But sometimes you don't, until you start looking at those little blurbs, you don't realize that, geez, I'm kind of a negative person. Or everything I say on Facebook is sarcastic. And that doesn't come off well to other people sometimes. So you need to look at, you know, what is it that you're saying? Why are you saying something like that? And can you explain it? And can you explain maybe how something you've been through in your life has shaped those feelings and thoughts? Because then people will grow to appreciate it and understand it, and then can learn from it more than just reading some rant that you wrote just because.
That is amazing. You know, what was going through my head when you were talking about this is Instagram, and how Instagram, I think you'll get to a point, I just saw it, you'll get to a point where Instagram was when Facebook paid $1 billion to buy them.
I would.
I mean, because you're driven, like what's driving you, and your father and what he said to you, and you know it'll be okay, and how you fought to leave a job of comfort. You know, 90% of the people in the world can't do that, and they don't do that.
Right.
You know, Napoleon Hill is it's crazy that I mentioned him earlier, but he's my favorite author, and he talks about that. You know, like what he did was he studied the most successful people in the world, 500 most. Henry Ford is mainly who he modeled it after. And you still see Fords all around.
Oh my God, yeah.
So he modeled it after that, and he basically he studied him for 20 years with no pay, and he studied 5,000 people to see what not to do. But one of the major points in that book is like that these people did was they wanted to be happy and do, you know, and stand for something, and not stand for this, but stand for the, you know, and go after what they love to do.
Right.
But it's so hard. I don't know if we need to change the school system, but it's so hard for people to get to that point. I mean, sometimes they never get to it.
Right.
But you've reached it.
Right.
You know, and you're on your journey to go do it, and I think it's a wonderful idea. And the acronym that goes with it, like that's amazing. WIRL, because it is like I was thinking more like a whirlpool.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And that's kind of what there's two folds to it. And the logo, if you look at the logo, it's kind of like a whirlwind.
right?
And
My
that's,
phone.
oops.
Oh no.
And that's because life is a whirlwind. And
Right.
there's all these things that are going on that are flying through, and you have to do with it what you can. So you can choose to share that information and use it in a positive way, or you can choose to kind of use it to pull you down. And so that's kind of where I came up with the logo, was not to take it the whirl part too literal, but to show like things are happening all the time. Like we can make a choice to use the internet in a positive way instead of just a passing through life kind of way. Like, let me take a selfie because I think I look good kind of thing versus
Right.
let me take a selfie because I believe I'm strong and here's why. And
Yeah.
let me take a selfie because I've just gone through something and I want to tell you about it. And this is the face of somebody who's just survived cancer, or somebody
Wow.
who's just gone through motherhood and I'm scared and I need help, or, you know.
This is so. I mean, this is going to help out so many people. I mean, you know, just to be able to know that there's somebody going through the same thing and they understand and they're making it,
Mhm.
like that push is it's unparalleled, really. You know, I mean, just to know that, like, you know, it's.
And the really cool thing about it is that I truly believe that at our core, we're all so much the same. You know, when you get down to stop scratching the surface, you know,
Right.
the surface is all our appearance and all that stuff. But when you get down to the core, we're all full. We all have a heart, and we all have a soul, and we all have something that we stand for and believe in. And we've all been through something that can help others. So if everyone's willing to pay it forward and tell their story, then future generations can learn from those stories. I mean, think of how it used to be before the internet. You'd sit down, cross-legged on the floor, listening to your grandfather telling you his stories about war and what he'd been through and stuff, and it really impacts and touches your heart. When you tell a good story,
Yeah.
it can change you, you know, and everything about you. And now with the internet, you can learn stories from people that you'd never have the ability to sit down and chat with.
You're right.
And writing in a conversational, casual way. I mean, this is probably the only writing platform where you don't have to be a writer to write.
Right.
I do not care if you are great at grammar. Our readers don't care if you misspell something. We have editors that take care of a lot of that and just make sure that you don't look
Wow.
bad. You know, we
It's
want to
kind-
keep your brand.
It's like a podcast, because right now, like, my phone went off. My phone will go off if your phone went off. It's not like there's no rules. You know,
Right.
I mean, as long as everybody's comfortable, we're having a good conversation. I mean, if you wanted to just like slide that over, well, go ahead.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
you
natural.
bought the microphone.
It's natural. That's
right.
the thing. Like, that's the thing. So I think because we're also alike at our core, we can relate so much once we're willing to sit down and peel the layers back.
Well, now so if somebody wanted to join, like say I go to this site, I would type in WIRLProject.com.
Right.
And when I get to the page, where would I go to hit it, like to create like do I have to create like a profile? Is it kind of like Facebook?
There's a couple different ways you can contribute. There's the first way, and the best way to do it is to create a profile. And so right now on the site, we're going through a little bit of rebranding, speaking of branding, but we're
Right.
doing a little bit of changing to make the user experience even better. So there's a tab that says Join WIRL Project, and so you can just fill out a form and you can request to join. We monitor to make sure that people are who they say they are. You know, we don't want people,
Right.
you know, that's the point of it. The whole point of the site is authenticity and just being genuine and true to who you are. So if you're not willing to do that, then you
Right.
shouldn't be in our community.
Right.
So we just fill that out. We verify that you are who you say you are, and then within 24 to 48 hours, you'll hear back. You can confirm your profile, and you can start whirling, and you can start
Wow.
sharing your
Start
stories.
whirling. I like that. So you call it whirling.
Yeah, so whenever you contribute a story, we call it contributing a whirl. So a whirl is just a story about what it's really like. And it doesn't have to be so literal. You know, some people say, well, I don't know how to write a story about what doing a podcast is really like. Well, it's not necessarily that. It's just being authentic and genuine about what you do and
Right.
why you love it and,
Right.
you know, all that sort of things. And it can be almost a confessional, too. I've had some people who are confessing, you know, this is how I really feel about this, even though I'm not supposed to say it like this, but this is how I truly feel.
Right.
And for that reason, there's also a way that you can contribute anonymously. So if you want to keep your job, but you want to sort
Right.
of tell people about how you really feel, or if
Right.
you want to confess something about a family member that you just don't want to hold inside anymore, or you need advice but you can't let it be your name,
Right.
then you can contribute anonymously, and it'll come from an anonymous profile, and it'll still go out to all our hundreds and thousands of readers, but
Wow.
it just, you can get feedback without your name being attached
This is
to it.
amazing. I think people are going to come here. People should leave Facebook because I see a lot of rants where people shouldn't be putting on there.